Lately I've been having a kind of like a inner struggle to figure out my path and how I should express and what I should do in regards to my views in the martial arts and things like that. And it's just amazing because every time there's certain things that bother me, usually sometimes I just read, and a lot of times I read Osho. I read his books, and it's like every single time I just read something, and then it's always related to what I'm going through. It's just weird. I don't know. It just seems like it's speaking out to me. But I thought that this video, I want to share a couple of pages from his book, because I think it's just amazing, the things that he says, and it's really relevant to the things that I've been contemplating lately, and it gives me some answers to help me decide, the path that I believe I should take. So the book is right here. It's Osho, The Man Who Loves Seagulls, Essential Life Wisdom from the World's Greatest Wisdom Traditions. And the pages that I'm going to read from is going to be page 227 and page 228. So this is what I'm going to read. Meditation is like an inner bath. To be alone for a few moments every day is a must. Otherwise you will gather too much dust. And because of that dust, your mirror will not reflect anymore, or will not reflect rightly. It may start distorting things. So what it gets me to think about is, when I get too caught up on this YouTube thing, it gathers a lot of dust in my mirror, and it distorts, it distorts me. No longer in meditation. So the society distorts me. When I'm alone and when I'm in meditation and the thoughts disappear, then that's where the truth is. So it gets me to think about that. Next paragraph. Have you not watched a single dust particle goes in your eye and your vision becomes distorted? The same is true about the inner vision, the inner eye. So much dust goes on collecting, and dust comes from relationship. Just as when you travel on a dusty road, you collect dust. When you move with people who are dusty, you collect dust. They are all throwing their dust all around. They are all throwing wrong vibes, and they cannot do anything. They are helpless. I'm not saying that you condemn them. What can they do? So what it gets me to think about is, when I talk about the martial arts, and I talk about it when I speak against that whole thing that's happening in the cage that I don't like, it's getting a lot of people wild up, getting a lot of negative energy, and a lot of dust floating around, and the dust is getting all over me, and it's not good for me. So it gets me to think about that, and how I should just maintain the path that I'm going on without letting people get their dust on me. Next paragraph. If you go to a hospital and everybody is ill in the hospital, and if they are throwing their infections all around, they can't help it. They breathe and the infection goes out. Have you not seen it when you go to the hospital to visit somebody? Just 1 hour in the hospital and you start feeling a kind of sickness, and you had come perfectly healthy. Just the smell of the hospital, just the faces of the nurses and the doctors and the medical instruments and that particular hospital smell, and people who are all ill, and the whole vibe of illness and death always there. Somebody's always dying. So it gets me thinking about is this whole cage thing, this whole competition thing and everything, this violence that's happening. It's like the hospital. It's the same analogy as this. It makes, every time I think about it, every time I watch it, every time people talk about it, it's like sickness to me. It's like death to me. And just like when you go to the hospital, like he said, you don't feel right. You know, it's like a lot of death energy, negative energy, and it's just something that makes you sick. So, thing is, stay out of the hospital. For me to stay out of this whole thing about this combat sport and all that stuff, it's not for me. It's making me sick, and it's making me die. So I gotta get out of it and just be free and be happy, be at peace. Next paragraph. Just 1 hour there and you will feel very low. A kind of nausea arises in you. Coming out of the hospital, you feel a great relief. The same is the situation in the world. You don't know because you live in the world. The nurse who goes on working in the hospital and the doctor who goes on working in the hospital, they have to become insensitive. Otherwise they would die. They would not be able to live there. They have to become insensitive. They go on moving. So the doctor is in the hospital trying to cure the people. And in order to cure the people, he has to be insensitive. And for me, I attempted to go into there to cure people, and I see that it's making me insensitive, like the doctor. And I don't like it. And I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm not there to cure other people. This is not my way. And I can't see myself developing into an insensitive person. And it just gets me to think about that. Alright. Next paragraph. That's why many times you see doctors looking very, very insensitive. That is their protection. The patient goes on saying that this is wrong and that is wrong, and the doctor stands there almost not listening. The relatives of the patient go on running after the doctor and go on telling him that this is going wrong and that is. And he says, everything will be okay. I will come tomorrow morning. When I come on my round, I will see. Now you are feeling so concerned, and he seems to be absolutely unconcerned. This is just to protect himself. If he becomes too sensitive, he will not be able to survive. He has to become hard. He has to create a kind of stoniness around himself. That stoniness will protect him. Will protect him from the hospital and the patients and the whole atmosphere. Doctors become hard, insensitive. Nurses become hard, insensitive. So it gets me to think about like this cage thing, this war. Gets me thinking about the military. I mean, if you go to the military, how can you be sensitive? You know, it's like you have to develop this insensitiveness in order to survive. And it's something that it's the part of the martial arts that's the hard aspect. And you know, that part is the one. You know, it's like the doctor that goes in the hospital to help people. He has to develop that hardness in order to survive there. So you get into the military, you step into the cage, you go into the ring, you do this combat stuff. There's a part of this hardness, this insensitiveness that you have to have within you in order to hurt other people and not even care about it. And for me, I'm not like that. I can't be like that. That's why I'm not a fighter. That's why I can't compete like that. Because I have this sensitiveness within me that I don't want to get rid of. Alright. The next paragraph. The same is happening in the world at large. It is a kind of big hospital because everybody is ill here and everybody is on the deathbed. and everybody's full of anger and violence and aggression and jealousy and possessiveness, and everybody is false, pseudo, and everybody is a hypocrite. This is the world. You don't feel it, but when a Jesus moves among you, he feels it because he comes from the heights. He descends from the mountains. And that's what I see. Is that all this stuff, all this violence, all this aggression is happening in this world, and people have grown so insensitive to it that it's like they don't even notice how messed up it is. Not even just in regards to like combat sport and the cage fighting, but even like jokes and like racial jokes and all these like discriminating jokes out there, that people just they just express it so openly, like like it's nothing, and people are just getting so insensitive. And here I'm sheltered away from a lot of this stuff. Know that I don't drink alcohol. I don't take drugs. I don't smoke weed. I don't do that cigarette stuff. I don't go to the bars. I don't go to the clubs. I don't watch cage fighting. I don't even watch TV. All I do is I train. I spend time with my family. I read books. I do this YouTube thing. That's pretty much all I do. I bike ride. But I'm away from a lot of this stuff. So when I see this stuff, I hear about this stuff, it makes me feel a certain way, and I see a lot of things that people don't see because I'm not like involved like everybody else. I don't want to say, Jesus was a wise person. I'm not going to say I'm Jesus, but Jesus was a wise person, and Buddha is somebody that I see as one of the wisest people to ever live. And I see that following Buddha's teachings and learning from Buddha and learning from the sages, I see what they see in many instances, like a lot of things, that a lot of corruption. Our next paragraph. If you go to the Himalayas and after living a few days in the Himalayan freshness, you come back to the plains, then you feel how dusty, how ugly, how heavy the vibe is. Now you have comparison. You have seen the fresh waters of the Himalayas, those fresh mountains running forever, and the crystal clear water, and then the municipal tap water. You have the comparison then. Only a meditator knows that the world is ill. Only a meditator feels that everything is wrong here. And when a meditator moves amid you, naturally he feels much more dust collected on himself than you can feel, because you have lost all sensitivity. So, it gets me to think about, just recently, like a couple weeks ago, I didn't make a video about this yet, but I don't drink tap water. I drink like filtered water all the time, and I've been doing that for like over 15 years. So I was working out at the park, and I drank like the water at the park, and it wasn't clean. It came from like the lake water, like in the fountain, which wasn't properly like filtered. And then I got really sick from the water. I think I got like E. coli poisoning. So I got really sick, and I was out for like 2 days. And that's because my body's not used to that type of water. And that's what I see, is that I'm sensitive to a lot of things, like even physically and mentally, and when I see certain things, it affects me. Like people could see the cage fight and stuff, and they don't think nothing of it. Oh, it's not a big deal, it's cool. But for me, it affects me, and it just, I'm sensitive to it. To me, I take it like more to heart that this stuff should not be happening. People, they don't really understand, because I come from a different state of mind, and I've experienced different things that other people haven't. But I try to bring that experience to other people by analogies, because I know there's a lot of people out there that love dogs, and it brings like a certain closeness to them, to dogs. And I feel that a lot of people, they even feel closer to dogs than they do to human beings. They care more about dogs than they do to human beings, and they grow like very close to them. And just even the thought of seeing dogs in a cage fighting each other and hurting each other and killing each other, they would go in outrage. And like, that's kind of how I feel about this whole cage fighting things with human beings. So I just try to use that as an analogy to try to get people to feel what I feel. Okay, next paragraph. This will be from page 229. Just 2 more paragraphs and that'll be it. You can come into the temple only when you have been to the mountains, and that does not mean that you really have to go to the mountains. It is not an outer phenomenon. The mountain is within you. If you can be alone, if you can forget the whole world for a few seconds, you will regain your freshness. And only then can you go to the temple, because only then are you a temple. And only then will your presence in the temple be a real presence, and there will be a harmony between you and the temple. Remember, unless you bring your temple to the temple, there is no temple. If you simply go to the temple and you don't bring your temple there within you, it is just a house. So what it basically means is that I gotta step away from all this this stuff, you know, drama, you know, over, you know, being too involved in this speaking against thing and everything. I gotta step away, be in meditation, and get my awareness back before I teach. You know, when you get lost in this stuff, you gotta come back, be alone, be in meditation, be aware, and then you'll be fresh again, your mirror will be clean, and then you can teach. Speaking about this against, you know, these things or whatever, it's just too much of my energy, too much dust is collecting on me, and it's making me dirty. I have to go away, be in meditation, be alone, clean myself from the dust, get back to clarity, clean my mirror, and resume and continue on to the path. Last paragraph. When Jesus goes into a house, it becomes a temple. When you go into a temple, it becomes a house, because we carry our own temples inside. Wherever Jesus goes, it becomes a temple. His presence creates that sacred quality. And only when you bring the temple and the freshness of the mountains and the virginity of the mountains, only then can you teach. You can teach only then, when you have it. So that just reiterates what I just spoke about. And you know, this book, reading from Osho, it just helps me a lot with gaining my clarity back, being back at peace within my, you know, being back at my inner peace. It was a test. It was a test for me, another approach to see where it would lead, what it could do. And I needed that test to just test it, so I know. Now I know. I tested it. I know that that's not going to be the path for me. My path is just going to be something where I just be less out there, less outspoken, more silent, more hidden, more meditative, less conflicting. And the people that are ready for something different, the people that are ready for the real martial arts, the people that are ready for Zen martial arts, the people that are ready for the spirit of the martial arts, they'll come when they're ready. But you can't force a person's growth. Just like you can't force the growth of a flower. Just let it grow. Take its time. The society, it's got to be patient. And I'll just continue to train, continue to express myself artistically, creatively, and do my best to maintain the peace within myself and within my expression, so that I do not confuse people too much. And that's what it is. So I believe that everybody needs to take the time to meditate. Everybody needs some type of spiritual guidance every now and then from somebody that they do respect as a wise teacher. If you don't have that, you better look for it. Because even Osho would look to Buddha, he looked to Jesus, he looked to a lot of great sages. I know the wisdom is within us, but it helps to surround ourselves with wise people, because that will help bring the wisdom within us. It will help bring it out. So the wisdom could be from Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu. It could be from Osho. But it has to be non-corrupted. It has to be the real teachings. And that's it.